Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello there. Welcome to the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
And I'm Chris.
And we have a couple of guests joining us on the show today. Katie Otten, who's probably chuckling there because Katie also happens to be the voice of our intro for our show every week. So
that's me.
You're listening to Katie. And then we also want to welcome Tim. It's Mantil. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tim Mantil, who is also new to the show, first time appearance. And we're going to talk to both of them this week about this new series that they've been working on. That's officially season 1 is out now, right? And it's called Inner Worlds. And Katie is not only writer, producer, but also an actor in the series. And Tim is one of the actors from the show. Tim plays a character called Seth. Katie's character is called Bridget, if I remember right. And so, Katie, I think we'll start off with you. Maybe you can explain to our listeners what Inner Worlds is about and where the idea came from for the series.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Inner Worlds is a story that I wrote during COVID because as an actor, a lot of things fell away and suddenly I found myself without work. And I thought I'm going to use this as an opportunity to write something I've always wanted to write. And I've always been obsessed with gaming and with Dungeons and Dragons. And so I wrote a little series about people that are beginning a campaign together. But I knew from the start that I wanted it to be a little different because I feel like there's so many series out there and shows about people just sitting and playing the game, or they record themselves playing. And I think that's so wonderful, but I wanted to make something just a little different. And so I focused instead on the actual players themselves and like how the game kind of affects their lives in little ways and changes them as people, their relationships and all that. So that's really what the story is. Season 1 is out right now on YouTube, and it's kind of an introduction to these characters and their campaign together. And then season 2 will like take that and run with it. And they've been playing now for a while. So that's a little bit about it. It's also, it touches on a few different like mental disorders and anxieties and various things that people deal with. Each of the characters has something they deal with, and then how they use the game to like work through some of that. So.
Well, that's actually a great segue because my next question was going to be for Tim. And so, Tim, your character has aphantasia. Can you explain what that is and how that impacts your character in this series?
Yeah, totally. So aphantasia is basically, its most basic is the inability to imagine properly or be able to create like images in your own head. Okay. So Seth really can't, in the form of the show, can't really comprehend how Dungeons and Dragons is played because it's a lot of imagination, a lot of people talking, and you gotta picture it. So to him, he just kind of sees like a black cloud. He can't really understand how everyone else is having fun with that game. So his girlfriend kind of takes the time to help him understand, leads him along, and it's kind of aphantasia, and how it impacts him. It kind of, in his daily life, it makes it kind of hard to have a bigger emotional connection with some people because they will live moments like they'll talk in a past relationship, makes it harder for him to get along with his ex because she will remember all these stories. She talks about things and he has trouble picturing it, and she thinks that he's not paying attention or he's not listening properly. So he deals with a
we
lot of that.
actually see that in one scene, right, where you're in the restaurant together eating, and she's kind of talking about something, and she's says, why are you staring at the floor, kind of a thing, right? What and you're like, when you're talking about this, are you actually seeing it in your mind? And he can't quite understand how that works. So that was very interesting part of that. So, and it's kind of interesting as the series goes on and you see him play D&D, you see at points, she kind of describes what's going on. And when it gets to be your turn, like in that one scene where you're being taken out of that jail cell, right? And you say, well, can you tell me what I'm hearing and what smells there are and all of that kind of stuff. And I thought that was really good because it really showed how someone with that, disability, I guess you would say, would try to get around that and play a game like Dungeons and Dragons that mostly takes place in your mind. So I thought that was very good. So I guess, Katie, you have a number of interesting characters in the show, and I was wondering if you can talk about where the inspiration for those characters originated.
Yes. Oh, I love talking about them. It feels like these characters are my best friends. I don't know. I can't explain it. When I started writing, for some reason, the characters were the very first, most vivid thing to me. Like they were just there already. Like I started to write and they came so easily to me. And a lot of it is, so like Bridget is like very many pieces of myself. And then each character, I sort of took things from people that are close to me, friends or family, or people that I play the game with currently. And I just took like facets of them and kind of plugged them into these characters. And I wanted them all to really feel kind of well-rounded and like interesting, but also just like people where they have, none of them are perfectly good or bad. They're all flawed. They're all like trying to figure this out together. And that was really my goal with them. But I hoped that the audience would find themselves somewhere in one of these characters. So.
Nice. Yeah. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I was curious about what the casting process was for these characters and how you either if you went out and decided which role you were going to take and how you found others to take on the roles that you had.
Oh, yes. I could definitely, like I said, I wrote Bridget for myself because that was just, I wanted to play her so bad. But the others, so, I mean, Tim, for sure, Tim and Paige, the two people, Paige is playing Mackenzie, the DM, and then Tim who plays Seth. I reached out, they were already in my mind when I started writing these characters. Tim is one of my favorite people to work with ever. So, and so I was writing a part for him basically, and I just knew, I was like, these characters have to be them, and I didn't even consider what would happen if they said no. I was like, I have to write this. And thankfully they said yes, and they were so excited and on board. So I wrote the parts for them basically, and then the other two. Gabby and Chad, I had actually written them with other people in mind, but for various reasons, they couldn't do it. And when these two stepped in, they brought something so new and wonderful to the characters that now I can't see them as anybody else.
Great.
They really took the characters and made it their own and added themselves a little bit in there. And yeah, it's just perfect. And I couldn't be more thankful.
And so, Tim, when you saw this role to play Seth, what was your initial thought? Was this like, I can't wait to do this? Was this will be interesting, a challenge for you? What was kind of your feeling there?
Oh, yeah. Initially, I was taken back by, I could see the love and care that Katie had put into it, just like the initial read. And that got me excited for it more than anything else. And then after that brought me into, then it was the challenge of doing the character justice, and that's always exciting. So it was that initial excitement in Katie reaching out and then reading it and seeing Katie's words and how much she cared for it. And that's just it's always a good thing as an actor that you know that you're going to have fun with it. It's just one of those telltales. And yeah.
I like
Aw,
some of the
that's
subtle
cute.
cues that Seth had in there with the mug that says "meh" on it.
I know, that's
Quote to
awesome.
Seth's character. I don't know
Right.
if it was intentional or not, but there's a scene where Seth goes in and he asks, well, I forgot her name already, but she's working on the project, and he says, "Are you going to be done by 5?" And it's already 5:26. He
Mhm.
turns around, he's
Oh,
got a shirt that
Mackenzie.
says "Just My Luck." Yeah, Mackenzie. He's got a
Yep.
shirt that says "Just My Luck," and I was like, "Wow, that just really kind of sets the mood there." There are some
Yes.
subtleties in there that I really enjoyed out of the character
Mhm.
for Seth. So given that he can have a hard time sometimes communicating, he's always in some manner kind of portraying what he's feeling at the
Giving
time.
out that
So
subliminal messaging.
yes, yeah.
I'm so happy you noticed that. Yeah, our costumer for season 1, her name is Kendra, and she's incredible. And she thought so deeply about every scene and about the characters' outfits and like what says something about them in that moment. And yeah, I love that too.
So that kind of brings up another question, and for me that I hadn't thought of before, and that is, when you're doing a show like this, and you bring in a set designer and a prop person and a costuming person, right?
Mhm.
You give them the script, I assume, and they go through it, and then do they figure out kind of how they want to do it, and then they just come to you and say, "This is my thoughts," and you give them feedback? Or how does that process work?
Boy, that's a great question. And every process is so different from different films I've worked on, but I really wanted it to be collaborative because I was like, I'm not an expert on costuming or filming
Sure.
or any of that. And so I really, really placed my trust in those people. And this scene, for example, Bill Hedges designed the whole set for. Oh, so gorgeous. And yeah, so I gave them the script and I gave them permission to run with it. I was like, please do what you feel is best to tell this story. But then I always had Jessica and I always had kind of the final say in things. And there were times where we were like, actually, we want to go in kind of this direction. So that was nice to know that we would always get the final say in what happened. But I really wanted them to put their own
Spin
expression
on it.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Mhm.
Now, that picture you had up, and I don't know if you've got a picture of Linda, of Tim as Seth in his outfit, but I had a question. So, Seth, your character plays an angel, but it's certainly not the image of an angel that folks might be familiar with.
Right.
So, can you tell us, kind of describe your angel's appearance? And we can kind of see it there, but for people that are just listening to audio only, kind of describe it for us. And were there any costume challenges associated with that outfit? Can't imagine there couldn't have been.
How'd you know?
So a quick rundown of the character. So he's an angelic ranger. He is one with nature. So he's an elf. So I got the ears. I've got the whole Legolas hair going on. I've got the whole tunic and everything. But coming out of my back, I've got they were wings, but they're wings that are made out of the forest. So they're tree branches with they used to have leaves, and part of the background is that my ranger fell asleep on duty, and that caused his whole village to get wiped out. So in shame and everything, his wings lost their leaves, so their feathers, so he can't fly. And it's kind of a redemption arc for him. And the challenges of it, it was hard to move in it. The wings themselves were big, and they were strapped to me in a harness, and that restricted a lot of movement. So a lot of the time I had people that would come up and they basically pick me up and move me to one side instead of the other. I was not a very flexible ranger,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was the biggest challenge to go through. But I think we really made it work. I thought a lot of the direction was good, so it hides a lot of my inability to do cartwheels or roll, fly around the set. So that was good.
Right.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Yeah, as I was watching the show, the series, there's one part where you're dramatizing this battle scene, and you've got a couple of characters that are unconscious on the floor, but you're not. You're still, up. And I'm thinking to myself, I bet he's really glad he didn't have to lay on those sticks on the floor. Because that would have been a nightmare, probably.
I didn't even think about that.
And I was kind of wondering in my mind, I wonder if they rewrote that scene so that he didn't have to lay on the floor in that outfit, but probably not. But
nope, just didn't even think about it. I love it.
All right, Chris, you got any more for us?
Yeah, on the scenes where you guys were filming, you mentioned Bill Hedges did one of the sets. What other various locations did you use locally or otherwise in the area to kind of shoot some of the scenes? Because you do kind of find yourselves in different places watching the series, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, yay. Well, the main location where Seth and Mackenzie live is actually above Dungeon Crate, and I didn't even know they existed until I started working on this, but they're a local Omaha place that does, like Loot Crate and different crates and things. They do that, but with D&D stuff, and they send it all over the world. It's so cool. And they have an apartment upstairs that's owned by a friend of theirs, and they kind of just keep it empty for when people come and go out of town. So they had an empty apartment, and we were like, oh my gosh, can we use this and decorate it and make it our own? And they were like, yeah, go for it. There it is. So that's where a lot of the gaming takes place. But then we went to Bill Hedges, like you said. We went to Bellevue Berry Farm. That's where we did a lot of the fantasy stuff. But then for some of the other scenes, like we went to Star Deli in Benson and Yano's Nursery for the tree nursery, and just various places all over town. We found a lot of places were very kind and willing to let us come in as long as we weren't kind of at their busy time.
Yeah. So how do you negotiate that? I mean, is it you that's calling them, or is it the director that calls these places, or do you kind of split up the task?
Well, I'm sort of one of like 3 head producers. It often falls on me to do that stuff, but Mark and Jessica also will sometimes do that. Like, especially if they know someone, then they'll take over that. But yeah, I'll usually just call and explain like, hello, we're this series and we want to come there and shoot stuff. And we can't really pay them, but we can, we'll always send them the footage afterwards or any pictures that we take there so that they can use those too. Because then hopefully we'll get some nice shots for them. So.
And you credit them in the credits.
Yeah, too, yeah. And on the website and all that. Yeah.
All right. So my next question is, and this could be for both of you guys, what scene came out better than you imagined? Because you're probably, and maybe this is more for you, Katie, because probably you're writing this and you're imagining this in your mind, how this is going to play out on a show, for example. And so did anything come out differently than you expected? And was it a happy change, or were you kind of like, well, that isn't quite what I was hoping it would be, kind of a thing? And then, Tim, if you want to jump in, maybe there was a scene you were in that you thought, I'm not sure how well this is going to go out. But then when you saw it, you're like, oh yeah, that turned out a lot better than I thought.
Oh boy. I'm curious to know, Tim, for sure. I think the best answer I can give is everything is different than I imagined, but that's good and bad. There were a lot of scenes that turned out so much better than I could have imagined, or different, because the actors will add things to it, and the location will change things. Sometimes we had to change things very suddenly, and we had to just kind of improvise and do our best, or we ran out of time or whatever. But overall, I'm so very happy with how it looks. And there's me as an elf. It's great. And,
your makeup is amazing.
Oh, yes. That's Heather Waite. She's incredible. She did all the makeup. She's doing it again for season 2. So we're so excited.
You look like a guy here.
Yes, that's the goal.
A nice looking guy, I might add.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think especially in particular, the episode called Just a Day, where it's like a music video basically, and that music is by another local band called Bakmai. They're amazing, and they let us use their music for free. It's so incredible. And when I wrote that, I was like, I don't know this is going to be out of place and like unlike any other episode, and I'm not sure how this is going to feel in the end, but I really, really like how it turned out. And I think it just gives you a glimpse into each of their lives when they're apart from each other, when we don't really get that much before that. And I don't know. I feel like it almost stands alone too, and I'd like it. Yeah, overall, I'm very happy with how everything turned out, but it is all different than like what I imagined, but I think that's good too. Yeah.
All right. All right, Tim?
I think mine was all the like outdoor fantasy scenes.
Okay.
We did like the Bellevue Berry Farms. It's one thing to read it and get excited about it, but I'd never been to the farm before.
Oh, really?
So I was like, I was just wondering, like, are we going to be in like some wooded area, like climb the forest and walk around, and just going there and seeing it all is one thing. Like, oh, these are all really, it was really cool because we got there before everyone else, so we got to land the land. We're like, oh, these buildings look awesome, and then all the extras showed up, like all these people that had their own costumes, did their own makeup. And it was amazing to see, and it was better than anything I could have ever imagined. So that was inspiring.
So Katie, did you coordinate? So all the extras that were in like that particular scene at the berry farm, did you coordinate that with the berry farm, or did you just put out a general call and say, you know, anybody that's interested? How does that work?
It was both. There's a group, and for anyone from out of town, the Bellevue Berry Farm is where we do like the local run fairs and that kind of stuff. And there's a group that works there called the Frightful Four Productions, and they know a lot of people. So they brought a few of those extras with them. They're like, these are our people, our knights and our whatever. And then I put out a call too and just said, anyone who has a fantasy costume, send us pictures. Let us know if you're free this day. And so we were able to bring in a lot. And we need extras for season 2, both fantasy and not fantasy. So for sure, if you're interested, let us know. But yeah, we were so thankful that so many people showed up, because for them, it's just like, hey, I get to have a day in costume and hang out with other nerdy people, and we get to shoot some stuff. And yeah, it was
right.
fun.
Cosplayers love that sort of thing.
Yes.
Right. Chris?
Yeah, actually, a question for you, Bill, is what kind of was your best? So as we watch the season, you see interesting dynamics between the different characters in there and how they interact with each other. One of my favorite ones was actually how Gabby interacts with her roommate Chad, and you see at one point where, you know, she gets a little bit jealous or upset that Chad's not talking to her about some of the things that he's going through and everything like that. And I thought that was a nice call out. You know, we're roommates. You can trust me. You can talk to me, kind of thing. And when she feels that's not happening, she just kind of goes back to her aggression type mode, kind of thing. And so that was a scene that stood out to me. And I've seen it happen in real life. And do you part, Katie? You know, you brought out a lot of different little tidbits of different things that you hope, you know, resonates with people. So, you know, was there anything that stood out to you, Bill, in season 1 that was kind of similar in terms of things like that?
Yeah, I thought the actually the ending scene where they're in the apartment there, and Seth is planning to propose to Mackenzie, right? And he's got this whole thing kind of planned out, and you know, he's secreted away the celebratory cake and all of the champagne or whatever it is there, and he got this beautiful thing planned where everybody's going to talk about their favorite happening within the game during the season that they've played before he proposes to Mackenzie. And that process doesn't exactly play out the way that
it was chaotic.
One would have hoped. Yes. And you know, Linda and I are sitting there watching it, and you know, as we see Seth's like, yeah, here's what I want to do. I want to do this in front of everybody, and Linda and I are like, oh, that's not going to turn out well. This is not going to go down well. Yeah. So so it was fun to watch that play out, and because we knew it wasn't going to go.
Something was going to happen. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And my lingering question at the end was, now what's he going to do with that cake?
Yes.
What the same thing.
Yeah. So So now you've already started work on season 2, right? Yeah. So is season 2 going to kind of pick up right where season 1 left off, or is there going to be kind of a gap in there, or is that you want to leave that to a reveal when it airs?
I'll give you a few little tidbits,
Okay.
not too much. So season 2 will pick up like a few months later. Here's a poster for season 2, yay! And yes, so everything has kind of fallen apart. Gabby has left the game because of what happened, and everyone is trying to figure out what their next steps are. So that's kind of where things will be. But yes, a little time has passed for sure.
Okay. All right. So now as you're shooting this, you've obviously got this script. How rigorously did you stick to the script while shooting? And were there any parts that you had to improvise? And also, were there any things that maybe happened unintentionally or accidentally during the filming that you ended up leaving in because you're like, oh, this actually is pretty good, I'm going to leave that in there?
Yeah. You can answer if you want to. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
I think the majority of my scenes, I always stay pretty close to the script. I know there were a few times where some of the actors, I think like Paige and Trey, Paige played Mackenzie and Trey played Chad. They got to have some fun and do some improv with some stories, but I think a lot of mine was pretty close to the scripts. I think Katie and I played around with how Seth would act between the dialogue. So I stayed mostly to the dialogue, but I gotta play around with what Seth did physically.
I see.
That led a lot of Seth's OCD tendencies and finding things. So while everyone else is imagining the world, he's kind of like, well, I got to clean up, and he's doing little things to distract himself. So we played a lot with that, and and different sad faces. That was a lot near the end of the season for the cake and everything.
Yeah.
So, right, we're gonna do 10 different takes of you got to look this sad, now look more sad, look less sad. So that was
fun. That's awesome. All right, Katie, anything that that was kind of didn't go according to the script that actually you thought, oh, actually I like the way that turned out, we'll just keep that take?
Yeah, we stayed pretty close to the script most of the time, except at the table. I feel like while they were playing the game, there was a lot more room for like, what would you actually do right now in this moment? Because when we're on location at like some other place, we have to be pretty like, we got to go, we have so much time. But at the house, we were able to have a little more freedom. And so there were a few things, especially things that, Mackenzie says while she's DMing, some of that was improvised, and she just had a blast with it. Every actor is so different. Some actors love to improvise and some don't. So it's kind of funny. But the moment that stands out to me that was totally made up in the moment was in the candlelight episode. She brings out these little candles and puts one in front of each character. And that was totally something we hadn't planned. We had asked the props person to bring candles, but he was like, I happen to have 5 that are different elements. And we were like, oh, that's like the characters. And so I told her, I'm like, why don't you choose who gets what one and like say something about it? And she was like, oh, okay. And she just did it. And it was brilliant. And we kept it. And I loved it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Chris, I'll jump back to you.
Yeah, question for Tim actually. Do you play Dungeons and Dragons outside of this show? And if so, what kind of classes and characters do you like to play?
Aww.
I do actually. I have a very good buddy who got me into Dungeons and Dragons with him back, I think, right after high school. So I've been playing on and off with him for years now. My go-to classes are Ranger and Paladin, but I mostly swing towards Ranger. I've never gotten the hang of magic. I just doesn't make sense to me, and my wizard always dies before you can do anything with his magic. So stick with my good old bow and arrow because I know I'm good with that. But yeah.
Tim, it's just like your character. I didn't know you played a ranger. Oh my god.
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to, on the class side, how much you'd relate to, the character that you play in Inner World. So I actually tend to fall more towards magic users, sorcerers, wizards, or whatever myself. And you're right, some of it doesn't make sense, and you do die a lot. But I don't know. I always enjoy it because you can sometimes have a little bit of fun with it. But I am trying out more tank type classes these days. So because I'm getting a little bit tired of dying. So
your other party has to protect you. Where are they?
Right. Well,
They're
if
dying
I
too.
stop jumping in the middle of stuff,
That's
Well,
fair, yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to protect someone when they jump into a void that
Yeah.
void of non-existence. It's like he did what?
It's
I
true.
sense some tension here. I love it.
Yeah. Bill and I do have a group together, so it's been fun
Yeah.
along with Linda. So
Yeah.
how about you, Katie?
Yeah, I am in 3 games and then I DM another, so it's 4 games.
Wow,
That's
busy,
too
busy.
many. I don't recommend it.
How do you keep that straight?
Yeah, I love it so much. And my first character that in the game I've been playing for 3.5 years, which is amazing, and I love it, is a warlock, and I love him so much, and that's why I wrote a warlock character for Bridget.
Okay,
So I was
great.
like, it's so fun.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it'd be like being in 4 games. I'm in 2, both with Benito, and I have trouble keeping them straight. I go there and I'm thinking I'm playing the other character, and then I'm like, oh
Yeah.
wait, no, this is the other one.
It's hard.
Yeah, Linda, did you have any questions? I know you're kind of busy putting up graphics and stuff, but I thought I'd give you a chance to jump in if you wanted to.
No, I was just gonna call out the makeup and what a good job they did on their make, and how much Katie actually looks like a male elf.
Thank you. Well, Jessica, the director, she was like, so we were doing casting, and she's like, so who do you want to play Veramis? And I was like, I'm playing Veramis. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that was the plan.
Oh, it's so funny.
I was like, because each of us, imagine ourselves as a kid. And so she was like, all right, let's do it. I was like,
That's
You
awesome.
played a good one.
Thank you.
Well, along the lines of characters for each of you, what was the most fun scene for you to play, and what was the most challenging scene?
I think my most fun scenes were really any scenes with Paige. 'Cause Paige was really fun to work off of. She's just a lovely human being, so it was
Yeah.
it was always a joy to be in a scene with her.
Seems like you
Challenging-
two had a really good chemistry.
We did.
Yeah.
Challenging, but in a good way. Were scenes with Kate Pryor, because I got so used to, because we did most of all my scenes with Paige first, so I got so used to being with Paige and developing that relationship. So then we had to go back to the past one, which probably ended up helping showing them that those 2 characters having to falling apart. Because I just remember the first day being so intimidated by her acting. So I was like, oh, okay, now I gotta step it up.
Aw,
And I remember just being like, you're not Paige, who are you? Get out of that seat.
that's so funny. And they're very different people and both so wonderful.
Right.
It's really funny.
All right, Katie, how about you?
It was tough sometimes to not to just focus on acting and not worry about okay, are they getting the shot right? Are they, well, who's doing what? Kind of watching everyone else, because I'm so used to oh, I can just focus on myself. But when it's your project, you're always kind of thinking about okay, we have 2 minutes to get this scene, we have to whatever. So it was a challenge sometimes to shut that off and just be okay, focus on my character and what I'm doing. But it was really fun too to get to do that. And I think the most fun scenes, I probably with me and Gabby, Jessica and I are so different people, and we work so well together though. But our scenes together were always just exciting and so tense at the same time.
I know, especially that one where you're punching the punching bag. It was
Yeah.
It's just the epitome of how different our characters are, and that was really, really fun and exactly kind of what I imagined for those 2. So those are
nice. So Tim, for your character Seth in season 2, and I'm know you haven't seen the script and know what's going on yet, but if you had an optimal path for your character's arc, what do you see him possibly doing in season 2?
Um,
I mean, I'm assuming you don't know what's going on, so I'm not asking for spoilers. I'm just saying,
I'm like, he does know, but he probably won't give too many spoilers.
Okay, good.
That is a good one without spoiling anything. I think just more to seeing Seth breaking out of his little kind of sheltered shell and just. I mean, he may not be able to imagine everything as everyone else, but realizing that doesn't mean he can't be a part of everything. So just a little bit more of that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and speaking of season 2 and the characters' arcs, I wanted a lot of input from the actors because now they know their characters just as well as I do, Like
Sure.
I wrote them to start with, but then they became their characters. So like I really wanted each of them to tell me what they thought their arc would be, and I took that really into account on how I wrote it. So that was such a blessing to get to have that from each of them too.
Nice.
So on the characters, as this continues to develop and you write this story, do you see where you would potentially add even more people into the group or expand that world in any way, and opportunities for other guests to come in and surprise change the storyline or something like that?
Yeah, season 2 will definitely feature a few more side characters and
Okay.
people from various people's pasts and things.
Mhm.
So yeah, that definitely comes into play. Now that we've established these characters, we're like, okay, we're gonna trickle in a few other
Okay.
complications.
Excited to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my next question, I guess, for Katie. So for someone that might be interested in starting their own web series, can you speak to some of the challenges you faced bringing the series to life and how you overcame them?
Oh, yes. Well, if first of all, just do it. Just make it happen. I have never once regretted doing this, and I'm so happy that I did. There are a lot of challenges for sure, and I think the big one is finding the right people to work with. Once you find a good supportive group of people that really believe in the story you want to tell, then it's all going to be awesome from there. But if you find the wrong people, or they're not they don't understand why you're telling the story or whatever, for various reasons, people can be the toughest part, I think. So I was so happy to have a group of people that really worked well together and brought this to life in the way that I wanted it to be. But of course, there's other very practical challenges like money and time. Getting people in the same space at the same time and figuring out how to pay for all the things you need is really tough. But we just made it happen, and we went in with the attitude that like we're going to make this happen no matter what. But the more support that we get, the better, of course. So that's how I'm always going to look at it. Is just like we will find a way. It just might not always be the easiest way.
Yeah, and you did a fundraiser, right, to get season 1 done, and you're doing that for season 2 as well, right? And yeah. So if people are interested in contributing to that, where would they go to contribute to help you fund season 2?
Yes, well, our Indiegogo right now is done for season 2, but you can always go to our website, innerworldseries.com. There's a donate button on there, or just helping like by spreading the word and telling other people about the series really helps immensely. And the more people subscribe on YouTube, someday we can make money maybe through there, but you need so many people first. So that's the ultimate goal. So just spreading the word is so great. But if people want to help financially, they always can through the website too. So
now, do you see this series as going on beyond season 2? Is it your intention to make it just sort of like a continuing thing, or are you planning to wrap it up in season 2?
Boy, that's always the question.
Yeah.
Whenever I get together with the actors, we have such incredible ideas. Like I have so many ideas for future seasons. However, again, the time and the money is a difficult thing. And so I wrote season 2 I wrote it in such a way that it could end at the end of season 2, or it could go on. Like, I think it has a satisfying ending, but there is definitely more story to tell. So I think it could go either way. I think it depends how much support and people how much people love this season will like probably determine it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Tim, a question for you. Do you have any interest in eventually directing shows or a show?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love creating. My big passions are science fiction, actually. So I would love to do stuff along those lines. I'll leave fantasy to the masters like Katie, but I'd love to do something science fiction related. That's my hopes and dreams there.
All right.
Let's do it, Tim. That'd be so cool.
Chris?
Nothing more at this time. I was actually just checking out where to donate. Since you brought it up, I'll donate right now.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So sweet.
All right. Anything else, Katie, that you want to add about the series, or any little teasers for season 2 to kind of get what people's appetite, or
Oh boy. Oh no.
you want to just keep that pretty close to the vest right now? I'm assuming we'll see more of Seth and Mackenzie's relationship play out here
Yes.
in season 2.
For sure. Where do they go from here? All of these characters have things they need to work through, and they're going to start to get more and more challenged by these things. And things in the game will continue to reflect like what they're struggling with in the real world, but will just keep escalating the way that a D&D campaign is. You know, you go from like, oh, we're going to fight this random bandit to like, oh, we're fighting, you know, a whole kingdom or a god or whatever. So those kind of escalations will happen, and that's exciting.
Nice. Yeah, it was kind of nice to see as the series progressed how, you know, each of them are going through these struggles in their life. But when that text comes through to remind them about the game that night, you know, they all kind of smile, and they're all looking forward to that break away from reality, right? So that was
they all
cool.
need it for different reasons. Yeah.
All right.
Aww,
well, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on, talking to us about Inner Worlds. And again, Katie, you want to give us the website so that they can go check it out?
Yes, innerworldseries.com. From there, you can find all of our social media stuff. If you want to watch the show, it's free on YouTube. You can just look up Inner Worlds and you'll find it on there. I can't thank you all enough for the support, and thank you so much for having us here.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for bringing us the show. It was great entertainment, great fun to watch, especially for anyone that likes to play D&D. They'll see this and I think they'll love it. So check it out. So anyway, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today, and we'll look forward to the premiere of season 2.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.